Today in my keto kitchen, I'm making protein sparing gingerbread. So it's my protein sparing bread with gingerbread spice because it's Christmas time and everybody wants gingerbread. I have to admit that I actually eat this all year long because I love it. So you start off, whenever I make this, I make 2 loaves at a time because we eat so much of it. We have it every night. After dinner, we have our protein sparing bread. I'm going to do a double batch. I'm going to give you the amounts for a single loaf. For a single loaf, that would be 6 egg whites. To that, you add 27 grams of egg white powder and a teaspoon of gelatin. Before I do that, first I'm going to do the sweetener. And I use French vanilla, better stevia. There's the end of that, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. And I put that in before the egg white powder because it'll blend in better. Then we do the egg white powder and the gelatin. And for some reason, the sweetener helps the egg whites to whip up. And I always mix it somewhat before I start whipping it because just to get it all combined, and I get fewer lumps that way. So to this, I'm also adding 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of gingerbread spice. I make my own, so I will put a link to how I make my gingerbread spice. As I say, we have this all year long, not just at Christmas. Get that mixed a little before we whip it. Now for the egg whites, it can take up to 6 minutes to get them to beat to a stiff peak. It doesn't always take 6 minutes, but I never beat them more than 6 minutes. That's just my oven preheating. I'm going to beat the egg whites on high for no more than 6 minutes, and we'll be back once the egg whites reach a stiff peak. So the egg whites have been beaten to a stiff peak. Now it's just time to put it into loaf pans, and I spread it out somewhat. I don't like to get bubbles, so I spread it out somewhat, try to get, bubbles out of it. Make sure it goes to all corners of the pan. I'm just a home cook. I'm not a professional chef, so sometimes fingers are the best. So I'm going to put this in the oven, 325 degrees for 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, I turn it off and I leave it in the oven, sometimes for like 3 or 4 hours, but at least an hour. And then what I do is I put it in a Ziploc bag, store it in the refrigerator for a day, because sometimes right after it comes out of the oven, it's a little flaky and crusty, and so putting it in a plastic bag helps to soften it up. I'm going to put this in the oven and I will be right back. So I made this yesterday so I could show you. This sat in the oven for a few hours, and then I put it in a plastic bag in the refrigerator overnight. And so it's nice and soft. So there's no flaky. We had some, as I say, I always make 2 loaves. 1 loaf we had last night, and it was a little crunchy on the outside, and it wasn't as good to me. So, and then I usually get about 8 slices. Get a good bread knife. If you have an electric knife, you can really slice them very thin if you want them thin. Usually when my savory bread, I don't want it as thick as this, so I will use a bread knife, which works great. I don't even know how many pieces I got out of this, but gingerbread, protein sparing bread. This is so good. So I'm going to taste it. See, a lot of people say, oh, the egg white breads are like cardboard. This is not like cardboard. It's very soft and delicious. On your protein sparing days, you can enjoy some gingerbread. As I say, we eat this all the time, all year round. Enjoy.